No, you're not stuck. You haven't hit a plateau. You're just not lean enough yet, or you're not taking the real necessary steps and putting them into action every day to get lean. And as a 3-decade-long coach in the trenches, working with thousands of people, I see these things every single day. And the recipe hasn't changed. What am I normally faced with? Well, first of all, everybody overestimates their body fat percentage, especially guys. Guys will come to me and say, well, they'll even pull their shirt up. Well, I'm probably around 14, 15%, 16%. And, I'm trying to get peeled and get down to that 10%, man. I'm like, bro, you're nowhere in the ballpark of 14%. You're probably like 21, 25%, because nobody has a real clear-cut idea of what actually their body fat percentage looks like in real time. Most people have considerably more body fat than they think to do, 5 to 10% more than what they're generally estimating. So number one, you need to be very realistic as to where you're sitting with your body fat percentage. And a lot of these stupid machines that you have at home are terribly inaccurate. And some of the higher end scales, or some of these higher end body composition tests like DEXA and InBody and some of these, well, they're pretty inaccurate too. They can be off by 3 to 5% in either direction. And I've seen some that were off even more than that. So I generally don't go by body fat tests. I go by the visual and the changes that are being made within how your clothes fit. Now, I know that may seem old school, but it's the best guide. So most people are far heavier in terms of body composition than they think that they actually are. Because, dude, let me tell you, and ladies too, guys, when you get down to 10% body fat, which most men have never been, and let's say when they were 9 years old, you're going to be lean. You're going to have abs. You're going to be vascular. There's going to be muscle separation. You're going to see striations. You're going to have zero reservation about jerking your shirt off at the beach and walking down it with pride. But most people never get to that 10%. If you can get down as a man to even 12, 14% body fat, you're going to be looking damn good. So if you're looking in the mirror and you don't think to yourself, I'm looking pretty damn good, like I am a total freaking babe magnet and I would have no reservations of pulling my shirt off out on the boat this weekend doing my thing, that's a good place to be. And then you can really take that to, the greater extreme, maybe for a short time, maybe during the summer months or for a particular event where you can peel that down to about 10%. And you can actually, most people can sustain 10% long term if their level of discipline is off the charts year round. And most people, it's not. And ladies, under 20%. And if you're fit, if you're training, and you're well fed, anything under 20% is going to look hot. It's going to look good. And if you can get down to that like 15, 16%, well, that's freaking bikini model stuff. So most people underestimate, and most people really don't have a clue of the level of discipline that it takes to get to those really super lean levels. Guys, 10% or less, women, 14% or less. Everybody talks about eating clean. They keep using that word, they keep using that phrase, but I don't think they know what it means. If you want to get lean, you have to summon up a level of discipline that you've probably never summoned before, or maybe it's been a very, very long time. And how you do that is relatively simple, but it's the execution that is hard. I can write a diet for anybody. I can spell it out for anybody. I just released a book called Iron 40, which shows anybody over the age of 40, hell, anybody 35 that's going to be 40 soon. It's an absolute blueprint of the things that you have to do, not only in your training and your nutrition and your cardiovascular efforts, but also in your mindset and your discipline in order to achieve that image that you have of yourself that you'd love to see in your reflection. And most people don't carry the level of discipline required to actually get there. So eating clean, most people use that phrase, but they're doing anything but eating clean, or it's spurts, or it's sporadic. And sporadic clean eating or spurts of clean eating is never going to produce the physique that you want. Number one, you want to live a 90-10 lifestyle. Now, if you're going to compete, which very few people do, maybe 1 or 2%, then it's as close to 100 as you can get. But that's unrealistic for just about everybody. But if you have a particular goal in mind, if you're not walking around within the physique that you're proud of, that you want to show off not only to others, but yourself, and that performs very well, then the 90-10 lifestyle is where you need to get, meaning 90% of your time is allocated towards eating nearly perfect, with giving yourself that 10% level of time where you can have a few of those dietary transgressions. And if you're eating clean 90% of the time, then the 10% where you may not be eating clean or have those occasional little things, well, if it's kept within that 10%, that 10% is generally not going to show up on your physique. Number one, it's choosing a diet that is going to be the one that is easiest to sustain and one that is free of dogma. Like if your diet has its own t-shirt and you have to have a membership card to stay in the club, it probably sucks, okay? Or it's probably not sustainable long-term, or it's good for a while until it isn't. So we could cure the obesity crisis tomorrow. Everybody could be lean, fit, healthy, happy, and perform at a very high level if you did just this. Eat single ingredient whole foods. Prioritize protein first. When you eat, protein should be the dominant macronutrient on your plate. And you should be looking to get at least 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass, or per pound of ideal body weight. Ideal body weight's generally a better way to go because most people don't know what their legitimate lean body mass is. Now, if you're having carbohydrate, it's simple. Again, single ingredient whole foods, white rice, potato, things of that nature. You could even have some real sourdough bread. I'm talking like the real fermented sourdough that's made from a sourdough starter, that kind of a thing. Those kind of starchy vegetables, those things are going to be fine because they're single ingredient whole foods. And it's like Justin Harris, the legendary bodybuilding coach, has said for probably 3 decades, nobody gets fat on meat and rice. And they don't. You're choosing your energy source as carbohydrate. You're taking it in logical quantities to fuel performance and load muscle glycogen, but not spill over. And you're not taking in copious amounts of fat with that carbohydrate and that protein source, which then gets you back to that competing energy source thing. And that's when the whole thing shits the bed. So protein is first, 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight. If you're having carbohydrate, then that's also somewhere in the area of 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight. And in many cases, if you're very active, if you train your ass off, you could even double that. And then you need to titrate the fat a little lower. Now, we know from the data that for proper, adequate hormonal output and response, you really don't need any more than about 50 to 70 grams of clean dietary fat if you're choosing carbohydrate as your primary energy or fuel source. Now, conversely, if you're on a carnivore diet or a ketogenic diet, which is fine, if that works for you, I tell you, absolutely keep doing that. Then obviously you're going to have to raise the fat higher. You need to find your sweet spot towards fueling performance, but not spilling over and making you chubby. And then you lower your carbohydrate. Carbohydrates do not have to be zero. They just need to be lowered considerably in that environment. I'm doing carb cycling now. I've been doing carb cycling for over a year, and it's working spectacularly for me. Now, if you're doing carb cycling, the best way to approach that is simple. And I'm not going to get into, complicated math problems. Just look at it simply this way. On training days, you stick to that carbohydrate prescription that I just mentioned. And if you're not training, you can reduce that carbohydrate intake considerably. You could start by cutting it in half, or you could even take it lower. If you're just sitting around watching football or Netflix, carbs can be very low on that day. And on those days, you can titrate the fat up a little bit. And that's going to make up for some of the difference in the caloric intake, because you don't want to be in a severe caloric deficit, because that can be harmful as well, especially if it goes on long term. So If you're actually lean and you get to that point of lean, you're going to notice that your hormones work better. You get a greater production of hormone response. One of the biggest detractors for proper hormonal output is carrying excess body fat. You know, a lot of guys have low testosterone that are very overweight, and they may be training hard. They may be getting adequate protein. They're just eating way too much freaking food and adding too much shit food into the mix. And because they have a higher concentration of body fat, when you have a lot of body fat, your body's going to produce more estrogen. You're not going to produce adequate amounts of testosterone, and everything kind of goes into the weeds. So by getting lean properly in the way that I just mentioned, body fat starts to come off slowly, systematically, the way that was intended. You preserve your lean mass. You don't go catabolic. You can still perform well. And as that slow titration in body fat goes down, your hormone response gets much better, and everything starts to self-correct. So when you have that lower level of body fat, you have that start to get that look about you, which drives your dedication and motivation because you're seeing those results. Your discipline increases because now you're starting to feel confident, and now you know you're really working towards something. When all these things start to come together, then everything starts working internally better, and your overall longevity, your blood markers, and all these things improve. So if you're thinking to yourself, I think I've been dieting pretty good and everything's come to a grinding halt and nothing's working well, well, then there's an issue somewhere. There's a chink in the armor. There's a wrench in the works. And oftentimes it's, recap, you've underestimated your body fat percentage. You've overestimated the amount of calories that you're taking in. You're not paying very close attention to your division of macros, your protein, carbs, and fat. And that's when things can kind of go crazy. And lastly, as the biggest recap reminder, single ingredient whole foods for the win. So you're not plateaued. You just need to make some changes and keep it going. If you want an incredible resource, damn right, I'm going to pitch my book. I just wrote a book. It's called Iron 40. It's an ebook. It's only like 99 pages long, literally, and like the last 3 are just photographs. I spell everything out. We talk about the motivation factor, the discipline factor. I give you some staggering statistics about what happens when you age, especially over 40 and really over the age of 35, how to correct those issues and how you correct it with training, not only strength training in the gym done properly, but also capacity and cardiovascular training, conditioning work. We talk about diet in a very non-dogmatic, easy, approachable way. And there's even a sample training split in there. There's a sample menu in there and a badass chapter on women. And I've worked with some badass women. They had to get their own chapter. And when you read it, you'll know why. And ladies, when you read that, if you don't feel like after reading that you're capable of eating freaking lightning and shitting thunder afterwards, trust me, you can, because as the name of the chapter implies, women are just built different. But anyway, check it out. It's at iron40.com. You can also get it on my main website, robgoodwinfitness.com. And you're going to see a lot more of these quick hit videos coming because I'm learning that quick, easy, digestible videos seem to be what people want. And that's what you're going to get from me. So I'm going to be releasing another one in a couple of days, so look out for that. Hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, and another one will be coming through your notifications shortly, and I'll see you there. I'm out.